And welcome back to The How, where I tackle the all-important questions in order to help people find a satisfying career or side hustle. If this is your first time here, I hope you find some value. If you're a returning viewer, consider subscribing. That way you can stay up to speed with the latest videos. Let's get started. In today's video, we're going to learn from a very good friend of mine who is a software engineer. Full disclosure, I'm actually really jealous of his career path. I'm very satisfied as a teacher, but if I had to do things over again, I would copy what he's done. You'll see why in a little bit. So let's get to it so that you can learn how to potentially have a satisfying career in a growing, amazing industry.
I'm Dano. I am an engineer. I've been working as an engineer for the past 7 years, and that is a software engineer. So I pursued this because somebody told me, I was, in the middle of my life, I was like 19 or 20 years old. And somebody asked me what I was going to be doing with my life. And I said, I'm not sure, I'm still looking, doing the whole college thing. And the person said, get into computers. If you don't get into computers, you're gonna fail. I can just see it. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know a lot about computers. And they were like, well, you should. Everything in our life is computers now. And so after that, I was like, okay, let me get on that. And so I started studying right away because I was like, I'll just become a programmer because I feel like that, it really resounded with me. And the person was somebody I really looked up to. In a zombie apocalypse, that's a great question. Because I like zombies, although I haven't watched a zombie show in a long time. I used to be way more prepared for this question, back in college. But it would probably be, it's different now, especially because I have a family. I used to not have a family. And so with a child now, like a little baby, it would be a lot different. It would probably be for the first little bit to bunker down. I think it would be to bunker down and hope that, I could, get to a shop at some point, but I think I'd be more afraid of everybody else right now. And I'd probably try and wait out a lot of it and be prepared enough where I could survive for, the first couple weeks and then venture out. But you got to be on the move. Everybody knows you can't stay in the same place. So that'll probably only be for like a week or two. And I would be more concerned about like getting propane tanks, like a little propane for like camping, because I have one of those camping stoves. And if I could just have a bunch of those and be like, okay, I now at least have some type of heat additionally where I could, like, if I'm moving, I could be cooking, heating water and stuff like that. Once electricity goes down, that's where you get concerned. I'm not gonna go get a gun. I'm not gonna shoot somebody. So, I'm more concerned about my well-being, and so, push myself to just learn it by myself. And luckily I had some really good help. I have a brother who's also a programmer. It's funny because he was always there and he was always like, I want to help you. And so I went and I got 2 lessons from him, and he talked about for loops and if conditionals, and I was lost. I just didn't know what they meant. I was just like, I don't know. And he just talked about it, and he's really smart, really, really smart, not a very good teacher. And so I actually ended up doing it all on my own online. I just went to like Treehouse and I just looked up different stuff, and I ended up building my own blog. And that's where all kind of it more built up, is when I did my own thing, my own project. And I was just trying to figure out how things worked. But after like 6 months of doing it, then I went back to him and I was like, hey, I've got this knowledge. And then it was way more helpful because he just was a lot better at that point.
It almost like it showed you what you don't know, and
yeah,
you knew what to kind of look for.
That's funny that you bring that, because I don't think I really thought about that much, but I do feel like that's a big part of what has helped me become a better developer, because he was the one who told me I'd been developing for about like a year and a half on my blog. It was just a music website. He was like, get a job. And I was like super not confident in getting a job. It's scary. It's very intimidating because you're like, I'm not a developer. I just do this on the side for fun. And he was like, no, you know enough, get a job.
Making your own blog, he said that you knew enough.
Yeah, he's just like, you know enough, just do it. And so I was like, okay, so I applied at a couple places and totally felt like I was lying my pants off. Like I just felt like I was totally not qualified for any of this. And the first place I applied to ended up hiring me. And so I went into that job, totally thought I was gonna get fired first week. I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna get fired. I just know it. She's like, no, you're gonna be good, And it ended up being awesome. And after the 3 months, I found another job. But before I was at this first job, I was like, I'm gonna try and apply for a senior developer job. I'd only had 3 months of experience as a developer. And I was like, because I was looking, the place I was at was just not very good. I'd realized after 3 months pretty quick that it was a startup that was gonna go down. I applied for senior developer and they had me come in and they're like, hey, here's a test. We'll give you an hour to do it. And I'm a junior developer for sure. I don't know any of this stuff. Totally failed. just so bad. I spent an hour, don't know how to do anything. He comes back and he goes, okay, let's see where you're at. And he looks and he goes, well, what have you done this? And I was like, no. Have you done this? No. Have you done this? And I was, no. And he was like, okay, so you haven't done anything really. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really fit for this, but I just wanted to see what you required to be a senior developer. And he was like, that's pretty cool. If you ever like year or two from, or time down the road, I like that you're like that. That's pretty awesome. And then I went home and I was like, I'm gonna study those things. So next time somebody gives me that test, I can pass it. I feel like I've done a lot of those type of things and I feel like it helps a lot.
You taught yourself, you didn't go to school.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've always kind of compared this, like I really do feel like development is a trade. Like if I were to kind of like group it into something, that's why I feel like development in like the university to me isn't as useful because I feel like it's more like a trade. Yeah. I compare it, my brother-in-law is a welder, and so I compare it to welding a lot, where it's like, people come to him and they go, I want a fence built, out of metal or whatever it's gonna be, and he has certain designs that he can use, and he has all these different tools in his belt, right? And he's gotten that from his experience in doing it. And so people look at his past projects and they can see this is what is useful or not. And I feel like that's the same thing with development, where I go, the most experience that you're gonna get and what people are gonna hire you on is when they see that portfolio and they go, here's this picture of what you've done before. I'm impressed by that. I wanna hire you so you can do things similar to that. If you can find a passion project or something that you can work on, whether you're going to school is great. School is now the one that's gonna hold you accountable, is what it ends up being, right? Is you're saying I'm gonna pay the money to them and they're gonna hold me accountable for doing projects, for turning in homework. I didn't have the money to do that and I didn't want to go into debt for it. And so instead I found somebody else who would kind of help me to do that. And a lot of it was myself in the beginning, but to get the job, needed some confidence. I think personally, it really depends on what you choose and where you are. Because there are some languages with these schools that are churning out students that are all like, I would look at what schools you have in your area and what they're teaching, because there's gonna be a flood of those type of students with that type of knowledge base. Like here, we have JavaScript students up the wazoo, right? We have so many JavaScript students. And so if we need JavaScript, cool, we have all these people to pick from. But if you're in Python or PHP or Java and you're a junior developer and you're studying those, that doesn't happen as often. It does happen, but now your pool is smaller and you're definitely gonna have a bit better opportunity of getting seen.
What did you do then?
I did PHP. I looked at it as what could I do as far as like freelance work, and I built my blog on WordPress, which is PHP, and everyone and their mom has a WordPress site. Yeah. So I was like, oh, so I actually found some freelance jobs that I would do on the side also, and so I was just running a couple mom and pop shops. And that gave me good experience. And I was getting paid for it too. So even before I had a developer job, I was getting paid to be a developer. Anything that can give you real-time experience before even getting into that looks really good. And passion projects, those look really good. Like passion projects, just like my blog, my music blog. I'm interested in doing this, so I'm just gonna work on this, and it looks really good on resumes. I think there's two different parts of being a senior developer. I think there's the first part of your career, which for me was getting a lot of I went to a company and we worked a lot of late nights and I worked a lot of extra hours, and you're just always on call because you can, at that time, I worked from home, which is a double-edged sword. In that you don't work from home, sweet. But if you work from home, you're technically always able to work. It's 10 o'clock at night, we need you to work on something. That's kind of part of the job description, so that was fine. I was really just trying to make my way in it and understand things. But then once you get to a certain point, I do feel like it's easy to find junior developers and mid-level, but once you get to a senior position, there's a lot bigger need for that. Because once you become so good at developing, a lot of people just start their own business or become a CTO. And so I feel like you can be a little bit more choosy, in that I was able to find a place that I was like, hey, I have restrictions. I want to be done at 5 every day. I don't want to work weekends at all. And in doing that, I was able to find somewhere where now I work 5 days a week and I work till 5. I think in my 2 years that I've worked at my current company, I've worked probably 6 nights late. Yeah. I don't think even that much, but we're project based. And so really you'll have a 2-week span where you're we're working on this project. And then it's after, as long as you get your projects done, you can move your projects around how you need your schedule to be. I'd say it's a very flexible, work environment, like a job to go into if you want good flexibility. I enjoy most just creating. Like, it honestly feels like you're just playing with blocks and like you're playing with like little Legos and you get to create this awesome thing right at the end. And so it's funny because I actually just am not good with Legos because they like take time to build up. But once you see the final project, you're like, oh, it's really awesome. You know, you see these people make like Death Stars out of Legos and you're like, that's awesome. And so I've always joked that I like math a lot because I've always liked math, but I hate math, like numbers plus numbers equals more numbers. I think that sucks, where I'm just like, that's just no fun. But if you can do like numbers and variables equals this cool app or website, that's pretty fun. One of the best pros about being a developer also is your self-worth, in that once you become good enough, you become valuable. I remember when I first got my first job, my brother told me, get ready, you're about to get recruiters who are gonna want you. I ended up getting recruited to the next place. And I've never actually applied at a place. I always end up finding somebody else who's like a friend that'd be like, hey, my job needs somebody. And I've always gotten hired that way. Yeah. Just because everybody needs developers. That's one thing that I would probably say I like also the most, is just the sense of like job security. You know, I feel like everybody needs developers, and so everybody's always looking, and that is a nice comfort that a lot of people don't get. I think most developers, it's gonna be the working with a client. I think one thing you learn fast is how to deal with people. I remember one of my first jobs where I was working for the mom and pop shop, they were like, I have X, Y, and Z requirements. And I was like, okay, cool. And I told them how much it was gonna be, and I was like, this is gonna be easy, right? They told me what they want, but we get done and I'm like, I have X, Y, and Z done. And they go, no. There's, within X, Y, and Z, there's all these small fine print points that you also agreed to without actually agreeing to it, really is what happened. I ended up probably spending like an extra 80 hours of time doing all these extra things. They had assumed we were a part of it and I hadn't. Yeah. You will get those people who you're like, you'll say, you have this idea, I think it can be done better like this. And they go, I don't care, I want it done this way. And you're like, okay, it's gonna take me X amount more hours and nobody's gonna like it in the end, or it's not even gonna be used at all because we didn't do it right, you know? And those are things you kind of just eat in the end. One thing to remember as a developer, and I always tell people, you have to be willing to work in front of a computer. For me, that's not a con. I'm okay working in front of a computer, have a stand-up desk, whatever, that's fine with me. But some people can't do that. Some people can't work in front of a computer all day. I think most people would agree this is one of the best job fields in the next 5 to 10 years. Anybody I talk to, I try and tell them to get into programming. But once you have your foot in the door, and as long as you can work, you in the next 5 to 10 years are gonna be in a very great situation. As long as you can adapt. As long as you're willing to adapt and say, I'm learning this language, whatever it is, I'm gonna become as good as I can. And then after that, I'm gonna start looking into other things because there's languages that just get funneled out.
So you would say that the future is bright?
It's very bright. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like getting married. You know, like, I feel like before I was married, I was kind of all over the place. And I was programming already before I had done it. But I feel like I'd gotten like some type of confidence of like, I needed to really buckle down, honestly. I think that was my thing, is I was pretty like, I wasn't in any place where I needed to do it or anything like that. And I was just like, whatever. And then I got married and I was like, you know, my wife has been a super big help because she's kind of pushed me of like, hey, what are you doing with your life? And I think I was always really good at setting goals, but maybe not accomplishing them completely. And I think she was more of a, when are you gonna do that type of stuff? And so it took me probably 6 months after I actually talked to my brother to actually get the job, because I was just so hesitant about it. I just really felt like I couldn't do it. Yeah. And she was like, no, do it, go do it, go do it. And so maybe it was having somebody else who also pushed me to help me to do it. I guess that's not something I exactly did that was like but really it comes down to accomplishing goals and having somebody to help you out. Like, I'm not saying everybody get married. I would say find somebody who can help you to, you know, set goals and just be accountable for them. Yeah. And that, to me, that was my wife who ended up doing that for me. Do you go home and you feel like you've done a good job and yes, like I can do this, and be like, man, I'm creating awesome work. But I would not say it gives me a sense of fulfillment because it's for the company I work for. I work for a company that sells purses, high-end purses, right? Where you sell luxury items. Do I find like I'm helping the world? No, I do not feel like I'm helping the world at all. And so I kind of sometimes think about that where I'm like, I wish I worked for a company that would benefit the world more, because really I'm just helping rich people find very expensive bags. You know, that doesn't really help society at all. I remember when I got hired and they gave me my first project, and they were like, go do it however you're gonna do it. And at the end of it, I figured it out. It took me like 2 weeks, gave it to them, and they were super impressed by it. It really felt like I had created something with my hands and given it to them, and they said, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and that feels great. At the end of the day, I really want to take care of my family. Like, you know, to me, there's 3 things I would say that I want, right? Obviously I'm going to work, so I want to be paid. Like I need a means to help my family. And then 2, I want time with my family. And so how, like, okay, I might be getting paid this much amount, but is it worth it if I'm going to be working this much more? Like there's definitely a pro and a con of that. And then the 3rd thing is I want to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's for most people, especially in development, you want to create an environment where you're always learning because it benefits the company, it benefits the developers, it benefits everybody. Those are my big 3 things when I'm like trying to analyze if I like my situation. I feel like development's all of, here's this idea, we have it, can you fulfill it? Yes, I can. And you know, a lot of times you don't get that appraisal for it, you know, most of the time, but you definitely have that like self-worth, right? Of like, man, I feel like what I'm creating is very, you know, very cool, and it's very rewarding.
Anytime I'm with Dano, I try to pick his brain because he's a smart dude, and I try to be more like him, in all honesty. So a huge thanks to him for taking time to meet with me. Now, if you liked that interview and you thought that that might be a successful career for you, here is Dano's personality. If you have a similar personality type, you could potentially have the same satisfaction in a career as a software engineer that he does. Stay tuned for a video where I will dive into more depth into what Dano has done to be successful so that you can learn from him in greater detail. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, hit the like button and please share this video with someone that you think could benefit. Seriously though, think of the people that want to take control of their future and not have to be dependent on school. Hit the subscribe button, that way you can stay up to speed with the latest videos on hobbies, opportunities, work, and how to find the right career fit for you.
Stay safe.